Okay, so now that we've learned a little bit about what servers are and how internet communication works, what exactly is a server? Like, is it some special kind of computer that you have to spend $10,000 for, or what is it? Well, the answer is a server, amazingly enough, is a freely available program that runs on any computer at all. In fact, you can set up your own laptop to be a fully functional web server. Let me show you how to do that. Macs already have the standard web server already installed. It's called Apache. You have to know some command lines to turn it on, but I can show you how to do that. And if you're on a PC, you can easily download the freely available Apache and install it. So on a Mac, from the command line, there's a control program for managing Apache called Apache Control. You have to put sudo in front of it, which tells you to run this command as an administrator so that you have access to do this. I've already typed in my password, so it's not going to ask me for my password again. And I'm just going to say start up Apache. That's it. So my web server is now running. And in fact, let's see what our IP address is. On a Mac, you can do this by saying if config, then your interface name. Mine's it's EN0, yours might be EN1. And here's my internet address, my IP address for this computer running on this local area network. So now what we can do is go to a web browser and ask for this web server. I'd already typed it in to test it. 192.168.1.13, and I'm going to go to my homepage, because I have a directory set up for that. And if I do that, it just says test. In other words, it was a simple file, and that's all it returned. And the reason is, if we go to my file system and look under my sites directory, there's a file called index.html, and that's really what's being returned here. In fact, I can ask for that document specifically. If you ask for a directory without a document, it'll usually just tries to load the file index.html, so that worked. So now let's see what that file is. I'll just look at this in the command line. Sites, there's that file. Index.html says test. Let me just prove to you that this is really working. I'll go ahead and edit this and say, let's edit this, hello paths class. Right, save this. Refresh this page. And now it returned hello paths class because it went to my server to the server at this address, which happens to be running on this computer, and accessed that file and displayed it. Well, it's great that you can set up your own server, but the reality is I don't recommend it for a few reasons. First of all, if you want your server to be useful, aside from development, which is fine, it's got to be on the internet all the time. And if it's your laptop, you're probably shutting it down and taking it with you, so it doesn't make a very good public server. Well, what about a desktop computer that's on all the time in your bedroom or your dorm room? Well, you can do that, and some people do, but you have to be careful for a few reasons. First of all, there are a lot of malicious hackers out there, and even though Apache is a pretty secure web server, if you don't know how to configure it and you don't pay close attention to it, it is a mechanism where bad guys can get in and take over your computer. They also, even if they don't really get in, they can cause you trouble by just making tons and tons of requests and slowing down your computer, which is called a denial of service attack. And finally, your ISP generally isn't going to be very happy with you running a server and providing information to the rest of the world, and they may actually have terms of service that you've agreed to that disallows you from doing that. So that may or may not be a good idea, but it's good to know how to do it. It's certainly useful for development. But what if you want to post stuff on a server that you control? Just, you want to own your own server, or maybe set up by a domain name so that you can have it be under your own name. In fact, if you go to one I own, peterson.org, you'll see the domain name I own for my family, and I just made links to all my family members and their web pages, right? I'm not actually running this server. I'm paying for what's called a hosting service. A hosting service is a company where they run web servers, and they let me basically run a little bit of my software on a small portion of their server so that when you go to www.betterson.org, DNS converts that to an IP address, and they essentially have given me access to an IP address for a small amount of money. I use this service, oneandone.com. It's a very low-end, reasonably user-friendly service. There are lots of them that advertise in all kinds of tech magazines. They say it's cost $2 per month. Well, that's only if you prepay for 3 years. But even if you prepay for 1 year, it only costs $3 per month. So for $36 plus about $10 for a domain name, you're up and running. It's not a lot of money to basically be able to run your own software at a server. This makes it really easy to upload files and serve those static files, and you can even have a database and upload your own programs. We could have used a service like this for our class this semester, but you kind of have to do a lot of configuration and manual management, and you have to set up databases if you want to use a database, and it's not free. So it turns out what we are going to be doing is using a service that is completely free for small or for modest usage, which will be plenty for this class. And this is a hosting service provided by Google called Google App Engine. Google App Engine does all of the kinds of things that a service like One&One would do, but it also provides higher level services. They provide a very sophisticated database service, and they have a good development environment with all kinds of libraries for doing things, and makes it very easy to manage and upload. And so that's what we're going to be doing. That's what we're going to be using this semester.